The most recent flashpoint before this one goes back to January, when Budden actually picked up the phone and called Akademiks directly on his podcast. The tension behind that call was clear. Budden's issue was straightforward. Akademiks had allowed Adin Ross to openly disrespect him on his platform without pushing back. And if you consider yourself someone's close friend and ally in this industry, that kind of silence speaks volumes. The message Budden was sending was simple. If we're supposed to be on the same team, why are you letting someone take shots at me without saying a word? What made the timing even more loaded was the fact that right around that same period, Akademiks had been publicly going back and forth with Nope, a co-host on Budden's show. So from Budden's perspective, the situation was compounded. Not only did Akademiks stay quiet while Adin Ross came at him, but he was also engaged in his own conflict with someone from Budden's own show. That context made reconciliation a lot more complicated. Now fast forward to last week, and the tension is back. The trigger this time is the ongoing stake lawsuit involving Akademiks and Drake. Budden addressed it on his podcast, and his criticism was pointed. His argument centered on a transparency issue, specifically that Akademiks was publicly promoting stake as a gambling platform while not disclosing that he wasn't actually gambling with his own money, he was playing with house money. And according to Budden, that distinction matters enormously when you're presenting yourself as a genuine participant in something you're essentially being paid to endorse. The core of Budden's argument came down to disclosure.
Well, then it's a big deal.
See, that's my point. Like,
You don't see it as misleading.
yeah, I don't see it as misleading.
I say I could be a little
I watch
misleading,
Akademiks
but
do.
I tend to
I
agree.
watch him do hours of commentary about hip hop in front of a stake screen, in front of a stake poker table,
Right.
pretending to. I don't know if it's pretending, but seeming like he's gambling his money. You can't do that.
Is it confirmed that he's not gambling his money?
I don't know any of that,
And
but
that's
that's
my
for
point.
their investigation.
Got
But
it.
that's why they're saying, we've investigated. Nobody's saying that they're connected to this company. So if we find out that there's a link somewhere and that they giving you money to do certain things, you're done so. I mean, I think that
so
makes all the sense in the world.
But you're saying a stake table and a stake little logo at the bottom of the screen and all of that other stuff, that doesn't say advertisement dollars? Or that doesn't say this is an ad?
Yeah, but
Like,
now when you turn around, because what they're speaking to is
It
when they
does
turn
say
around
that.
and post their slips, and it's like, I wagered this amount and
Yes.
I won this. But if you didn't really wager that amount because you're giving,
they might have got promo funds or whatever the case is.
And the disclosure point is one that applies broadly, not just to this situation. Anytime a content creator is being compensated to promote a product or service, the audience deserves to know that up front. It's a basic standard of transparency. The notification, the disclaimer, the clear label that says this is a paid partnership, that's not optional. It's an ethical baseline. Now, Akademiks didn't take that criticism quietly. His response was to turn it back around on Budden, pointing out that the Joe Budden podcast has Prize Picks as one of its sponsors, a fantasy sports and picks platform that operates in a space adjacent to gambling. His argument was essentially, how can you criticize me for taking gambling money when your own show is sponsored by a platform in the same ecosystem? But here's where a lot of people felt Akademiks missed the point entirely. Budden's criticism wasn't about whether gambling-adjacent sponsors are acceptable. It was specifically about the lack of disclosure around stake, about promoting a platform to an audience while concealing that he wasn't actually risking his own money. Those are two very different conversations. One is about the nature of the sponsor. The other is about honesty with your audience. Akademiks addressed this on multiple occasions, and in one of those responses, he made the case that Prize Picks itself operates through significant legal loopholes, noting that it isn't permitted in certain states and functions in a gray area that, in his view, makes it just as questionable as anything he's been associated with. He pointed out that Budden had even attended the Super Bowl as a guest of Prize Picks, which he felt undermined any moral high ground Budden was trying to claim. And then, almost immediately after making that argument, Akademiks ran a Prize Picks ad on his own platform, which, depending on your perspective, either completely undermined his own position or was simply the reality of how sponsorships work in this industry, regardless of the ongoing beef. The broader point Akademiks seemed to be making was about selective outrage. He suggested that the criticism being directed at him, particularly around his relationship with Drake, felt coordinated and disproportionate, that the people coming at him the hardest were operating under the same conditions they were accusing him of. And in a moment of visible frustration, he questioned just how much influence people actually believed he had, whether the version of Akademiks being constructed by his critics reflected any kind of reality at all. And this is where Akademiks shifted from defense to full offense. His argument centered on the lawsuit itself, and his position was that the people treating it as credible had failed to actually read it carefully. His core point was straightforward. The lawsuit alleges that Stake was running a bot operation to artificially inflate Drake's streams, essentially claiming that a major gambling platform engineered a fake streams program to benefit a music artist they had a business relationship with. An Akademiks' reaction to that was one of genuine disbelief. Not because the idea of stream manipulation is unheard of in the music industry, it's not, but because the specific claim being made about Stake's involvement struck him as logistically nonsensical. His question was simple. If Stake had somehow figured out how to bot streams at scale, why would a gambling company use that capability to boost a rapper's numbers? What would be the actual business logic behind that? He also pointed out that the same lawsuit had been filed in 8 different states, a detail he felt undermined its credibility rather than reinforcing it. And when he went and read the actual filing himself, he found what he described as significant factual errors throughout, including notably names being spelled incorrectly. He suggested that even the courts receiving these filings were questioning their legitimacy. The lawsuit itself frames the alleged scheme as a civil RICO case, claiming that Akademiks, Stake, and Kick were all operating in coordination to funnel money and inflate streams on Drake's behalf through a network of fraudulent activity. Akademiks' position was that the entire premise was built on inaccuracies and that anyone who took the time to read the document carefully would reach the same conclusion. His frustration with the Joe Budden podcast specifically was that they had treated the lawsuit as credible source material without doing the basic work of verifying what was actually in it. In his view, reading a filing out loud on a podcast without scrutinizing its contents isn't journalism or commentary, it's just amplifying something that may not deserve the platform it's being given. And Akademiks had a specific example to back up his point about the lawsuit's credibility issues. The filing reportedly lists Aiden Ross as a Stake affiliate, but a basic internet search would tell you that Aiden Ross hasn't been associated with Stake for roughly a year. He moved on and is now partnered with a separate gambling platform called RainBet. That's not a minor detail. That's a foundational factual error sitting inside a legal document that people were treating as a serious exposé. His broader argument was about selective scrutiny. The level of critical analysis applied to this lawsuit, or the lack thereof, stood in stark contrast to how similar situations involving other high-profile figures tend to be handled. When allegations surface against certain artists or public figures, the response from media and commentators is often meticulous. Every claim gets examined, every timeline gets questioned, every inconsistency gets flagged. But when the target is someone like Drake, the same standards don't seem to apply. The allegations get amplified first, and the verification comes later, if at all. That double standard, in Akademiks' view, was the real story underneath all of this.
One, DJ Akademiks.
Ak, what up?
What up, Ak?
Ak, what up, bro?
Salute. Congrats.
Ak, I hear you, little streams, nigga. You want war? Hey, what's up? You trying to turn shit up?
What?
I gotta call my man to see what's going on.
I've been hearing something. I didn't know what went wrong. I've been hearing something. I've been hearing something.
I feel like all the people that was on Drake's side, it's just time for them to get their shit off with Iceman coming. So I'm not really. I feel like that's what it is.
You think you just collateral damage? Nah, but
I was on the other side of this. And then we had the fucking state conversation that he replied to. I don't know. I just got to call my man and see what's going on. But 1 and 2, 2 and 1, tomato. Again, the same. What he wants to do, step it up out there.
Shout out to everybody on the list, man.
Word, shout out.
One, you guys, congrats on number 2.
Salute.
The rest of you work harder.
We're going to work harder.
Word.
So it ain't just for them.
Hopefully.
We work harder so we can get to 1.
That's it.
I didn't think we were going to be 2 this year. Thank God for relationships.
There's a lot of them on that list.
Hey, that's a part of it. You want the Grammy, you got to go back there and rub elbows.
Yeah.
Well, come on, you can't just rely on all the good work you've been doing. Pick up the phone. Send a happy birthday text to the editor or some shit.
Yeah.
Pop up in the building, have some tea talk, some shit sometime. You know what I mean? License some of your content for them to use. Hey, it's other shit that go into it, man. Hey.
And they remember those who don't.
Word.
Hey, I wasn't the second best this year. We wasn't, but
good luck.
I guess we are.
Hey, according to the list.
Yeah.
That's all that
These
counts.
niggas out here was interviewing J. Cole on the highway. They had Kodak Black in the middle of a seizure. Nah, the shit that the interview niggas did this year, I was like, oh.
They got it.
They can have it. You seen these interviews they've been doing?
Now, here's the honest take on all of this. Both sides actually have valid points. Budden's criticism about disclosure and journalistic standards is legitimate, and Akademiks' pushback about selective scrutiny and a frivolous lawsuit being treated as credible is also legitimate. This isn't a clear-cut situation where one person is entirely right and the other is entirely wrong. But the real question worth asking is, in 2026, does anyone actually want to see a full-blown podcast war between Joe Budden and DJ Akademiks? These two have history. They've had moments of genuine mutual respect, and yet here they are once again circling the same territory. And if you want to understand what's really driving the tension right now, you have to factor in Drake, because underneath all of this, the timing is not a coincidence. Akademiks has spent the last several months firmly in Drake's corner, and over the past few days specifically, he's been publicly calling out media personalities he feels have been distancing themselves from Drake or shifting their narratives right as Drake's highly anticipated project, Iceman, is approaching its release. His argument is straightforward. A lot of the people who have been most vocal in their criticism of Drake are the same people who have zero access to him. No interviews, no exclusives, no relationship. And that lack of access, in Akademiks' view, shapes the coverage whether people admit it or not. Joe Budden, he made clear, is someone he had in mind when making that point. So, with Iceman dropping imminently, the stakes behind this back and forth are higher than they might appear on the surface. Akademiks has been campaigning hard, and this album's reception will either validate that loyalty or complicate it significantly. And if the project underperforms relative to expectations, you can be certain that Budden will have plenty to say about it, loudly and at length. That's the subtext running through all of this. And it also helps explain why Akademiks has been drawing comparisons between how Budden treats Drake versus how he treats Jay-Z, an artist Budden has long admired and spoken about with clear reverence. The argument being made is that the criticism isn't evenly distributed, that the same energy Budden directs at Drake doesn't get applied to Jay-Z with anywhere near the same intensity. And interestingly enough, that very dynamic may be part of what's pushing Akademiks to be increasingly vocal about Jay-Z himself lately, as if evening out the playing field on his own terms.